Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Ebrahim Gangat and you are with Salaamedia. Today we continue yet another tragic human rights story. And to help us understand what exactly is happening in Burma with the Rohingya people is Advocate Shabnum Mayet. She's a co-founder of the organization called Protect Rohingya. And we're going to ask her to tell us, have you forgotten the Rohingya people already? All right, let's catch up with them. Let's welcome her to the program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shabnam.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So basically, the Rohingya live in Burma. They live along the Bangladeshi border, most of them, in a province called Arakan or Rakhine State. They've been there for more than 800 years. But the majority Buddhist Burmese government says that they are illegal Bengali citizens and that they must leave the country. They have no citizenship and they're suffering grave human rights abuses since 1982 when their citizenship was revoked by the government.
Let us look at some of those human rights violations. We have heard some people talking about them being one of the most oppressed people in the world in today's times. What are some of those human rights violations?
That's correct, actually. According to the UN, they're called one of the most persecuted minorities in the world today. And when we talk about the human rights violations, things like they require government permission to make nikah. They have to sign an agreement that they won't have more than 2 children, so that's forced sterilization. They're not allowed to own land. They are not allowed to get a proper education, especially not a tertiary education. All the Rohingya who are currently in Burma, which is around 1 million of them, are forced to live in internally displaced people's camps, and the 2 villages that are currently occupied by Rohingya are surrounded by military. So as you can see, the situation is really dire. The women are constantly subjected to rape and sexual violence by the Burmese military. And of course, we saw last year, 25,000 of them stuck on the open seas, victims of trafficking to neighboring countries like Thailand and Malaysia. So really, the situation is dire.
It's about a year now that we had that case on the Andaman Sea, or many more cases, and Thailand too, on human trafficking, where there was news reaching us that Thailand, the government and some of its officials were directly involved in the human trafficking as well. Has anything changed ever since that time, last year up to now?
As you correctly stated, the massive case in Thailand, they found these graves full of Rohingya bodies out in the jungles, and it showed very clear, sophisticated trafficking rings that were working in that area. Thailand has subsequently had a show trial, but even one of the prosecutors on that trial had to leave the country. So no one who is really held accountable. You know, it was more for the US, I think, because the US was going to remove their tier rating because they were so involved in human trafficking. So at the end of the day, the Rohingya are still in camps, in IDP camps in Malaysia and Thailand, and not much has been done to change their situation.
We thought that if the government has the elections and then one of the great people fighting for human rights there, Aung San Suu Kyi, when she comes on, that she's going to be, making a difference for the people from Rohingya. Has anything happened any different ever since the arrival of Aung San Suu Kyi?
Well, like you, people around the world were hoping for this, the Rohingya themselves, because she's such a great figure when it comes to international freedom and human rights. But she's been in power since April of this year, and obviously we knew that their party was going to do really well at the elections from before that, but not a statement has been made, and her silence has been one of the most disappointing things in the Rohingya situation. If you were watching the media last week and the week before, you'd have seen that what has happened was Kaman Muslims, who are similar to Rohingya, but they are one of the 135 minorities who are accepted by the government. A few of them drowned as they were going to get food. As you know, it's an area which is full of rivers, and it's not always predictable, the water. Anyway, the US Embassy then issued an apology, like a press release, condolences. And what happened was the Buddhist right-wing Mabata went crazy. They were like outside the embassy protesting. And what happened was Aung San Suu Kyi's government actually sent out a warning or request to embassies not to use the word Rohingya. And then after that, last week, Ambassador Kerry from the US was there. And when he raised the issue, he was told by her to give them some space. And I don't know how you ask for space, when a genocide is happening. So, of course, the NLD government has not changed its stance, but what they have done is put together an organization or committee for the development of peace and stability in Rakhine State. Aung San Suu Kyi is supposed to head this committee, but this committee is made up of government officials, and no government officials represent the Rohingya. So I'm not sure how ethical such a committee will be and how much they will care about the Rohingya rights or the Rohingya needs.
So there's hardly any hope, any help for these people. What about any other countries, within the structures of the United States, or even maybe countries like the OIC, Muslim countries? Has anybody come forward to say anything about the people from Rohingya?
Well, a few countries have offered to take on refugees, notably on the African continent. But the thing is that when it comes to refugees, we don't want them to have to leave their home in the first place. That is their home. That is where they belong. Burma would want us to take them away. In fact, previously, Burmese officials had said, well, take them anywhere, So people should be allowed to remain at home. And yes, the US is saying things. The UK has said things in the past. But if you are still giving money to a government that is implementing a genocide, the UK being the largest grantor of aid to Burma, then if you're saying stop the genocide, it doesn't really matter very much because you're still doing trade. The US has dropped most of the sanctions. So there's nothing notable. And like we have the AU, they have the ASEAN. And in the ASEAN, countries have this non-interference policy. So even there, activists are trying to push countries in the ASEAN to say, look, say something, force the government of Burma to do something. But nothing concrete thus far.
So where does it basically leave the world in terms of trying to assist the people from Rohingya? We are smack into the month of Ramadan. They are Muslim people and great difficulties, We obviously know your organization has started a campaign. What is it you have come up with this time? How are you, even if it's in a little way, trying to assist the people? And how can people out there watching this, our viewers out there, how can they be part of this campaign?
Okay, well, as we see, when leaders and states don't act, then the people are forced to stand up and act on behalf of the oppressed. And so we have talks and seminars. We assist, various countries who are writing, organizations in countries who are writing policies. We answer questions on the Rohingya. So it's a lot of awareness. But what we are doing next Monday, and we hope that the listeners or those watching will join us, is that there's a campaign called Wear Black for Rohingya. And what this is that we ask you to basically wear black. It's the 4th year in a row now that we're doing this. Hold up your message of solidarity and get the Rohingya issue trending online. Because the more people that know, inshallah, it's the more people that will act.
Right. So they must wear black, whatever form. Monday the 13th of June.
Monday the 13th, and they can hold up a sign like this, okay? Our hashtag is at the bottom, so it's hashtag Black for Rohingya. And, it's hashtag Black for Rohingya. They can hold up a sign with their own message, or they can just tweet this hashtag to us at Protect Rohingya, capital P, capital R.
Protect Rohingya. All of those messages, it will basically, as opposed to maybe in the past where there was lots of type of campaigns where people had to give money and so forth. This time you're asking for a message. What do you intend to achieve with this, Shabnum?
Well, I think the one problem we still have with the Rohingya is, unlike the conflict in Palestine or in Syria, people still don't know that much about it. So, we need to raise awareness, because the more people that know about the conflict, the more it remains on our radar, and then the more people want to act about it. So in South Africa, for example, we have a Burmese embassy, we have a Thai embassy, a Malaysian embassy. So one of the actions that watchers can undertake is that they can get hold of these embassies and say, what is your country doing about the Rohingya? And then there are various online petitions. Of course, you can join us next week, Monday, and keep watching because there are constantly things coming up because the situation on the ground is changing so quickly for the Rohingya that there are constantly new campaigns happening.
Absolutely. I think it's important, it's imperative. There is a great amount of difficulty, a very tragic situation that to a larger extent is being underplayed around the globe, and that is of the people of Rohingya. We are so honored to have with us Advocate Shabnum Mayet, the co-founder of Protect Rohingya, who is doing fantastic work, is doing great amount of work. I think about awareness and consciousness. Once that has reached us, then we can also be able to act. And I thank her so much for the time, for being with us. From myself, Ebrahim Gangat, and Salaamedia, shukran jazilan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.